Someone on stream asked me, Nux, why do you have this whole series talking about how to write good and bad female characters and all that stuff? It just gets you canceled. It gets you in trouble. Yes, it's positively fire, but what is with you and women? Are you just a misogynist after all, just like those Twitter people like saying to farm likes off your demise? And to that I say, no. To that I say, I just respect women so much more than your average Twitter user that I just feel the need to make these videos purely out of my respect for women. Well, that's not exactly the answer I gave on stream, but if I actually tell you the answer that I did give on stream, I will probably get mega canceled. So if you want to, then you could go watch my VODs and try to find it. But I love treading this line of being respectful towards women and simultaneously, yeah, I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Anyway, on the brand new episode of How to Not Write Female Characters, I bring you, ladies and gentlemen, what you've all been waiting for, Superhero Edition. The major focus here will be on 4 women from superheroes, movies / shows. 2 of them are absolutely brilliantly and fantastically written, some of truly the best characters in fiction, and 2 of them... Am I allowed to say I want to go to the other room myself on YouTube? Well, if I can't, then I won't. So we'll just make believe I said nothing. Not to beat around the bush, let's talk about Gwen Stacy from Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. I think Gwen is probably one of the greatest written female heroes in the history of heroes. And I am more than excited for people on Twitter to say, bro, she's not a good female character. She's transgender. You know, she's not in the actual canon. I mean, I'm sure there's some universe that she is in whatever, but not the one that I'm talking about, all right? And I will be comparing her in just a moment to Lois Lane from the new My Adventures with Superman TV show. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty and details of the different characters, there are several reasons as to why I wanted to compare them. One of them being which, if you're up to date with the My Adventures with Superman show, in episode 7, they introduced this entire multiverse with, get ready, the League of Lois Lanes. It's a multiverse with all the different Lois Lanes that get together, and they're awesome, and they're badass, and oh my god, dude, every superhero movie and show, goddamn, needs a multiverse at this point, is literally driving me crazy. They're gonna have me straitjacket to a table in some asylum somewhere, and I'm just gonna be screaming, ah, multiverse! But if you look at Gwen Stacy's character for just a brief moment, you will notice one very important thing. She is so badass. She is so awesome. You're always rooting for her to win. You're rooting for her to get that respect she deserves, that happy ending that she needs, that appreciation that she wants, the closure that she really feels like she needs in order to proceed with her life. And unfortunately, due to fate or whatever holding her back, she's having a really hard time finding that closure. In the original Spider-Verse movie, she is definitely introduced as much more of a side character than in the second one, where she takes a main focus. So I'm going to be focusing mostly on the Across the Spider-Verse sequel. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, it is literally the greatest new movie of the generation. But Gwen Stacy is a character that struggles with a lot of things. She's not the strongest Spider-Man in the entire multiverse, and she's by no means perfect whatsoever. That said, if you look at her from the perspective of her backstory, she is someone who went through an incredibly traumatic event when the Peter Parker in her world, her best friend, someone that was maybe gonna become her boyfriend, someone that she truly, truly loved with all of her heart, ended up getting killed. And it was sorta kinda her fault, not really, but she's kinda blaming herself for it, whatever. I don't wanna get too many into the details, into the nitty gritty, because it's kind of irrelevant, but at that point, she feels like she does not deserve love. In probably one of the most impactful scenes of the entire Spider-Verse movie, she meets up with Miles, the main character, and they're kind of chatting, and Miles obviously wants this to go further than just being friends, and she obviously kind of does too, even though she feels like she shouldn't. And they're having this discussion, and at some point, Gwen turns to Miles and says, you know, I've looked at all these different realities, and it never ends well for Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man. And, you know, Miles is like, well, there's a first time for everything. which is kind of the dynamic that makes them such good friends. You know, it's the optimism and the realism kind of dragging it back to home. And it's what makes their dynamic work out so well and helps them play off each other to such a great degree. The reason why I mentioned this specifically now in regards to the whole her Spider-Man dying is simple, and it's straight up because she feels like she does not deserve a happy ending. She feels like she was given a cheat code to the universe, knowing the meta endings of all the different Gwen Stacys in the different universes, and she has interpreted that to herself. She's not willing to break Miles's heart because she knows that it'll end up in a resounding failure. Not that she's judging him for what alternate Spider-Man might have done or failed to do, but she feels like it's just not worth going the extra mile to break him. You see, Gwen Stacy is a selfless character at her core, and in regards to this relationship, it just makes me like her so much more. A lot of female characters in superhero movies kind of exist in this weird void of just being the plus one of the male superhero. And you're gonna see, I'm gonna be talking about Lois Lane and Amber from Invincible later in this video. Like, goddamn, you are gonna see what I'm talking about. But that sad existence of just being that plus one, existing purely to be like this weird point of contention for the main character, that is the most derivative and garbage writing you could possibly do. It is the most disrespectful way you could possibly treat a female character. A lot of people were blaming Gwen Stacy on Twitter, and I kid you not, this is a legitimate argument that people had. They hate that Gwen Stacy's character is a character that wants to fall in love. It would be much better if she just wanted to become the strongest Spider-Man of all time, the Hokage of Spider-Men, the Pirate King of the Spider-Verse. And when I see that stuff, I'm like, bro, that is the stupidest, most brain-dead thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Saying that because she's a woman, she's not allowed to be in love and she has to focus on strength, and that's promoting good values for women is, in my opinion, kind of dumb. She could want both things. Dude, men have been falling in love in movies since movies started ever. It doesn't emasculate men that men want love, and it shouldn't make women less badass if they want love. You have to see how this whole love thing is actually taken flight. That's the make it or break it. And for Gwen Stacy, willing to sacrifice her personal wishes for what she thinks is the well-being of her friends or the universe or something else, sacrificing her own feelings for something greater, that will always be so much more impactful than the character who gets pissy at the main character. Oh my God, I can't believe Superman didn't tell me he was Superman. And then he missed brunch, and now brunch was ruined because of him. And you see the difference that I'm trying to make here? It's not the relationship. It's not the fact that they are a character that is in love with a male superhero that necessarily ruins their character. It's how they treat it. There's nuance in all this stuff, and Gwen Stacy is just incredibly nuanced. Not to mention the entire freaking movie just being a masterclass at her discovering her identity and being comfortable with herself. From in the very beginning, she's obviously hiding her secret identity from her dad, who's a police captain and hates Spider-Man. And she's flying around the world, saving people, doing typical Spider-Man shenanigans until eventually her dad finds out that who she is. And when her dad, the police officer, finds out who she is, that she's actually Spider-Man, and that he wants to take her to jail, and he's like, God damn, you are under arrest, bitch. You broke the law, bitch. All right, he didn't use those words. I'm just kind of ad-libbing here a little bit. She felt like her identity, her true identity, was not accepted by her father. So yes, while I vehemently say that she's not transgender in the actual movie because that never happened, this could perhaps be a metaphor for her identity to some degree. Every single human being, no matter your gender, does have struggles with personal identity being regarded as something that you're not. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, and I'm talking about women on the internet. I'm talking about animated women. My parents wanted me to be performing heart surgery right now, not getting canceled on Twitter. But I am grateful and they accept me for who I am, and that's extremely pog and awesome and all that. Now, Gwen goes through this massive character arc where her father doesn't accept her. She eventually does wind up in her own reality, does bump into her dad, and eventually her dad does accept her for who she is. It is a beautiful story, a story of her being someone that needs to be accepted by other people, but also someone that is so strong in finding strength in being herself. That is such a beautiful dynamic because humans are social creatures, unless you're me, who's locked up in my room jizzing on my keyboard 24 hours a day. Editor, cut that out actually, that's a little sus. But this is just absolutely and positively beautiful character writing. This is writing a awesome, badass, inspirational female character. And the same cannot be said by her compatriot in this video, Next Wabbit! Lois Lane from My Adventures with Superman. So I'm just gonna say that in regards to most of the female characters that I talk about in this overall series, talking about how to not write female characters and stuff like that, Lois Lane is, I guess, of the better of the not well-written characters. And I'm not just saying that because she is a masterclass of Rule 34 art on specific websites that will not be named or linked here because I'm gonna get hella strikes. And I cannot afford another one of those. Please, thank you, YouTube overlords, if you're watching this. This is an educational video. I did not even say titties once. Damn it! In the new My Adventures with Superman show, they do something really nice in the whole Superman type genre. I, for one, think it's a breath of fresh air that DC is doing an animated superhero show that is focusing on the most overpowered superhero of all time and not actually making the dynamic focus being, how will Superman defeat the super threat that is super destroying Super Earth? Will Superman be able to stop him? Will his Kryptonian powers be able to overpower this random dude with some crazy machine giant robot? Spoilers, yes. The man could fly back in time and shoot lasers and punch planets and stuff. Listen, the answer is yes. Man can stop every threat, all right? Please. While I know Superman was an incredibly beautiful and fantastic and awe-inspiring work of art when it was first released a bajillion years ago, at this point, superheroes are so basic and commonplace. A superhero with no flaws, that's a perfect being, that's a moral high ground in every situation, that'll always just be able to surmount over every foe possible. That's kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. So I do appreciate that they made the main focus of the My Adventures with Superman show about the dynamic between Superman just trying to be a normal dude. He just wants to be a guy being dude, being bro. He doesn't want to be this crazy superhero guy. The worry isn't about how will Superman defeat his enemy. The question is, how will Clark Kent riz the panties off tomboy Lois Lane, who goddamn is bad? So while I do think this is a very fresh take, and I find basically all of the general romance type episodes, the cute episodes of them having cute moments and stuff and being all cute and cuddly, I find those scenes kind of delightful. They're cute, they're a breath of fresh air, and I don't mind the slice of life vibe of it at all. But when anything even slightly or remotely plot driven happens in this show, I just go completely haywire. I've literally been making videos on every episode of the show on Nuxanor, so you can watch my real-time mental collapse as the show gets more and more plot-driven and plot-focused. But I think, by far, the most heinous plot device in the entire show that just drags drama into every scene is Lois Lane. Lois is introduced in the very first episode as an incredibly impulsive person, a reporter with a knack for getting into trouble, someone who wants to get the scoop on everything, not because she wants to save people, not because she's moral in any way, but because she has a personal, egotistical, impulsive feeling that she deserves the right to everyone's private details of their life and dirty laundry. She's literally given jobs by her boss, and she will not listen to the job. She will make believe she's someone else, and she will get into a prison to interview people and claim that she is a different reporter and not the intern that she actually is, to get information that she doesn't deserve, to get a scoop and really bamboozle someone. She wants to get that clickbait TMZ exposed video on YouTube before anybody else does. She's willing to put her lives and the lives of her colleagues in danger in order to get that scoop. For Lois Lane, the truth is the peak, and she feels like she deserves that truth every time. She is finally given the ability to act as an actual reporter and not an intern in one of the episodes at some rich guy's party with all of these rich politician people that are invited, and she's given a list of questions that she's supposed to ask. She keeps begging to be promoted to being a reporter instead of just an intern, and finally this is her chance to do actual reporting work. But what does she do? She's like, I'm not gonna ask these basic questions. I'm just gonna go up to Jeffrey Epstein and say, hey man, have you molested children in the past? To which Jeffrey Epstein is not gonna have comment. She does this to every rich and powerful person in the entire room, and obviously she gets zero responses, zero information, and isn't actually doing any reporting work whatsoever. She's just angering people to the point that the entire Daily Planet news organization gets kicked out of the freaking party because she is an ungrateful, asinine, stupid, egotistical, self-serving woman who I respect tremendously. But she is simultaneously the most entitled human being I've ever seen on my screen. Now, I'm saying all this because I believe every character needs character flaws. This is all fine, but I really don't like how the show really tries its best to keep framing this attitude of hers as that she's sort of in the right. I know that she makes mistakes throughout the show, and a couple of them she actually has consequences, but for the vast majority of them, she has no consequences. The show likes to make it and make believe that she actually has the right to be this entitled prick. So when she just trying to figure out who Superman is, and she eventually figures out that it's Clark Kent, not due to any of her own good reporting work, by the way, but she figures it out somehow. I mean, I would think it was pretty obvious. You're basically dating the dude and also seeing Superman 40 times a day. You think she'd put it together? Nope, she needed a deus ex machina to put the answer in her coat pocket. Like, you want to make a strong female character, right? At least have her figure something out due to her own wit, okay? Anyway, whatever. I digress. She figures out Clark Kent is Superman, and mind you, before this all happens, she says Superman's a liar, I'm gonna expose him, Superman told me he doesn't really know what his powers are, doesn't really know where he came from, and man's full of shit, I'm gonna expose the shit out of him, and Clark Kent's like, oh god, I'm never gonna tell her I'm Superman, I freaking wanna get in her pants, I'm not gonna freaking tell her I'm Superman, she's gonna expose the shit out of me. And then, when she eventually does figure it out, and she eventually does confront Superman, and Superman is standing there, and she doesn't confront him like a normal person, she spends an entire episode trying to be like, hey, maybe me, you, and Superman should go on an adventure together. And he's like all excited that she's inviting him to an adventure because she has fantastic butt. And he's like, God damn, this is amazing. Not realizing the hint that she's trying to allude to the fact that you and Superman have never been in the same room at the same time before. And in order for her to actually get him to admit that he's Superman, she doesn't say, hey bro, who's basically my boyfriend, are you Superman? And be like, gee willikers, you got me. Nope. She jumps off of a building where if he is Superman, he'll save her life. And if he doesn't want to reveal he's Superman, she will die and will be forever on his conscience. That is an impossible position that no one should ever put on anyone else. And you know what? After this all gets done and the whole drama happens, he reveals he's Superman, they get into this little tiff on the rooftop, a whole episode passes where he jumps in front of bullets to save her and says all these corny lines like, I didn't know I could survive bullets, but I knew you couldn't. And she's like, and she orgasms all over the place. And at the end of that entire episode, that entire back and forth, Superman apologizes to Lois Lane for keeping it for her. But she does not apologize for absolutely anything at all in this entire show. Now, the major reason why I'm comparing her to Gwen Stacy is because she is clearly, at this point, putting her own personal feelings above, the objective Superman saving people live trope. Where Gwen Stacy was definitely bottling up her personal feelings for the sake of the greater good, which I think truly marks what a hero is. And if you look at the next episode right after that, episode 7, the multiverse episode, where you meet all these bajillion Loises, and Lois finds out that there are some bad Superman out there. Oh my god, I played the Injustice video game, and holy frick, man, that's crazy. Her immediate response isn't to just, make believe that, well, my Lois Lane, my Superman is my Superman, and he's a good fellow, and I'm gonna trust him for who he is. Her immediate reaction is, oh shit, I am going to keep this secret from him because as we've already established, I love when people keep secrets from me, so it's totally okay for me to keep secrets from him, and also I'm seriously gonna judge him for all the alternate versions of him. She's insufferable in so many scenes, in so many episodes of this entire show. Yes, her spontaneity and her impulsiveness is kind of cute in some settings and some circumstances, but when it comes to writing the overarching character, everything that Gwen does right in the emotional department, in the superhero department, the identity department, they are completely and absolutely obliterated by her in every form of semblance of context in regards to her relationship with Superman. It's like, just to think and compare for a second, you got the Gwen Stacy scene where she meets her dad and her dad accepts her, compared to the Lois Lane scene where Lois Lane thinks that all of the freaking other Lois Lanes are way better than her. She's the worst of the Lois Lanes. And then Superman says, but you're my favorite Lois Lane. And she's just like, and orgasms everywhere. And oh boy, we're not even at the worst of the whammon of the video. God damn. Next whammon, Starfire from Teen Titans. So I'm on this little bit of a tear recently. I don't know if you've been aware. I've been doing this whole comparing Teen Titans, a show made literally 20 years ago, and modern superhero stuff, which is made, modern day. Just showing you the absolute level and incredible chasm between the two of them in regards to quality and character writing and plot writing and all of that fun stuff. So Starfire is a character that came from this alien warrior race of the Teen Titans in their base form without any of this crazy emotional heightening Raven or Beast Boy super juice ingestion. Starfire is the strongest of the Teen Titans. She's physically strongest. She flies, she shoots lasers, she's fastest. She is literally the strongest. So everyone complaining about how female characters were written poorly in the past, so now we need to write them as these unflinching gods. 20 years ago, Starfire was the strongest character in the show. And the only one that would actually probably beat her as an even stronger character is Raven. Another woman. So put a sock in it, please. You dumb. You stupid. Starfire has a really, really cool character arc throughout the entire show, and it is a character arc in regards to finding her own identity, and a character arc in regards to so much more than just that. Now, Teen Titans does a really good job at self-enclosing its plot lines into separate episodes for the most part, or giving specific seasons to specific Titans in regards to a larger character arc. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty because there's so many different, I guess, Starfire episodes that you can learn so much about her and her finding her place to be accepted in this world, in this foreign planet, where all she's known her entire life is other planets looking at them as merely vessels of combat, capturing them and trafficking them across the galaxy for brutal combat and battles. She is finally finding her place among her friends, but that can't stop her from still feeling inferior inside because of all of the history and tragedy that her race has gone through. This is a journey of discrimination and a journey of identity, and it's so powerful how she learns to trust the people around her. In the episode called Trock, this epic superhero is seen fighting a whole fleet of enemy ships in Earth. All right, and the man flies into Earth with enemy ships, and he takes down these ships barehanded. He's a goddamn superhero. He's basically white supremacist Superman, and all the Titans are like, goddamn, this man's kind of a badass. So they go meet up with this dude, whose name is Valior, and he says in the most condescending way possible, I just want to kick him in the balls. And the Titans are all simping over him. They are gobbling all over his knob. This man is such a badass. Goddamn, he is saving the universe. Literally. Man is literally saving the universe all the time. He has this secret mission, and he says to the Titans, you know, Titans, why don't you join me on this secret mission? Because I can use the help. And they're like, oh, frick yeah, this man's super awesome, and we're gonna save the universe? Count us in. And the superheroes, the Titans, all joined the squad, and you start noticing that he's treating Starfire kind of badly. He's giving cool jobs to everyone except for Starfire. He's not really given much of anything to do. He gives all of them nicknames. Yeah, he calls freaking Robin Spike, and he calls Cyborg Sparky, and he calls Raven Sunshine, and he calls Starfire Trock. And we don't really know what that is, and when she's later met by Cyborg, and Cyborg calls her Trock just because he's enthralled with this Valior guy, Cyborg, she tells Cyborg Trock means nothing. And alright, I mean, alright, sure, whatever. And when he calls her Trock later, she says, no, it literally means nothing. He is calling me nothing. He views my entire race as an entire race of nothings. And she is subject to this incredible level of discrimination by someone that all of her friends are looking up to right now, unbeknownst to any of them. Now, because of all the trauma, the PTSD that she's gone through her entire life, and her entire nation is built on this trauma of how they are regarded by other people, this cuts incredibly deep. And Cyborg says, no, I do understand a thing or two about discrimination. And you're like, of course, he's black. And he's like, because I'm half robot, which is hilarious. And Teen Titans is a kid's show, and I respect that they're giving the message so clearly without necessarily needing to touch on real world tragic stuff all too well. I think Teen Titans is brilliant for this. They were real for this one. But it very much gets across the idea that discrimination is a very real thing. And not only is it real, but when it's done to such incredible degree, on such a societal level, she herself feels worthless in some places as well. They eventually tell Robin, and eventually the rest of the crew figures it out too, and they stand by Starfire. They stick by her, and they tell Valior, this person that they were simping for, like Valior was a goddamn e-girl on Twitch, and they say, I think it's time for you to leave now. And they don't like him, and they throw him away. They throw him to the dogs. This man went against our friend like that? What an asshole. And that's in credit to the Titans character. That's in credit to the relationship that they've built with Starfire until this point. But that's not the major reason why I'm mentioning this today. At the very end of the climactic battle to save the planet, Valior and Starfire are there, where Starfire clearly helped him to get there, despite the fact that he kept blasting her, kept trotting upon her legacy, kept shitting all over her, defecating in her mouth, explaining how she was useless and he didn't need her. He eventually puts a bomb in the core and the reactor to blow up the planet that's gonna destroy all the humans with these cyborg robot people, whatever. And says to Truck something kind of horrible. Says, all right, well, I plugged in the bomb. It's time for us to leave. I'm gonna fly out and escape right now, although you're welcome to stay. Meaning basically saying, if you want, you could get blown up for all I care, which is pretty horrible. And Starfire is, swallowing her pride. She doesn't want to say anything. The mission comes first. Even when Robin said, we're going to leave right now, Starfire says, no, we are not going to leave. We're going to complete the mission. The mission is more important than my feelings, goddammit. And eventually, as they're about to leave, Valior gets trapped in this field, this plot-convenient field where he's, suffering and dying. And the bomb's about to go off, and he's trapped in the field. And Starfire risks her life to open up the field and says, take my hand. And he says, I don't want your hand. And Starfire says perhaps one of the most bone-chilling lines of all time to this man who has been constantly berating her. She says to Valior, you may not value my life, but I value yours. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a hero. This is a true hero. This is a female character that's not only physically powerful, but also emotionally one of the strongest characters I've ever seen in my entire life. I shudder to compare her to the modern day, where they think that the only way to write a strong female character is to make her a stoic, emotionless creature that's merely powerful for the sake of being strong, Captain Marveling her way around the galaxy, saving people because she is awesome and a woman. Her lack of penis has heightened her emotional strength. This is emotional strength. To be strong isn't to not have emotions. To be strong is to overcome your own personal feelings for the greater good. To quote Game of Thrones, Bran asks his dad, can a man still be brave if he's afraid? To when his dad, Ned Stark, turns to him and says, that is the only time a man can be brave. Bravery isn't something that the person has no fear, it's overcoming fear. Strength isn't not having emotions, it's overcoming feelings. I feel like it's such an important lesson, and it's such a powerful message, and Starfire absolutely nailed it. The same can't be said for the next character we're about to talk about. Next woman, baby! We're talking about Amber from Invincible. Invincible's a great show. I'm not gonna lie to you, it is probably my favorite animated superhero show of the modern era, I guess. It's no Teen Titans, but it's freaking up there. It's good. The one incredibly insufferable part is Amber. For those of you that need a little bit of a refresher, because I personally mentally blocked her out of my mind. I only unblocked those synapses in my brain to remember her enough for this video, and it nearly gave me a stroke. Amber was the girlfriend of Mark, the main character in Invincible, the superhero guy, and much like most superheroes, his identity was a secret. So he's going out and doing his things and saving people, and she's getting all pissy. Wait a second, my boyfriend is never around. Not for brunch, not to volunteer at the soup kitchen because I am an emotionally and morally superior being to all the people around me. I do soup kitchen stuff, by the way. I'm kind of awesome. And when there was a supervillain that showed up to attack me, my boyfriend was nowhere to be seen. Yeah, this Invincible guy saved me. Lucky me. But my boyfriend ran away and left me here. What a bitch. And you know what? That last thing, I guess that's kind of justifiable on her part for being upset. Until you're about to hear what happens. She eventually breaks up with him because he's a bad boyfriend. And he says, you know what? I'll tell her. I can't do this whole secret identity thing. It's tearing me apart. I'm just going to freaking tell her. And says, Amber, you want to know the truth? The truth is, I am Invincible. Invincible is Mark. We are the same guy. The reason why I wasn't at brunch was because I saved the city. The reason why I didn't go to the soup kitchen was because I saved the planet. The reason why I wasn't there to protect you when the villain attacked is because I was the one that protected you when the villain attacked. And at that point, you're like, oh, she's gonna just explode. She's gonna be like, oh my God, Mark, I am so freaking sorry for saying all these horrible things. You're actually kind of awesome. Oh my God. That's not her response. Her response was, oh, I knew that. I knew that you were the superhero all along. Your secret identity thing, I didn't fool me. I knew all along. And he's like, wait, what? So when you were blaming me for not being there to protect you, you knew that I was there, that the guy that protected you anyway? She's like, you lied to me, Mark. And like, it's like, in a nutshell, this is probably the worst written character I've ever discussed. Especially because they break up and then at the end of the show, he gets back together with her somehow. I guess toxic thighs be toxic thighs, if you know what I'm saying. Some dudes, they just see boobs bouncing and their brain goes out the window. So I don't know what's going on there. But this whole interaction is the stupidest and worst thing I've ever seen in fictional history. Like, it might be a good twist that I actually knew all along your secret identity, but then if you actually go back and look at how much of a despicable bitch she's been throughout the entire show, where she clearly knew his secret identity, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. That is putting your personal feelings above the safety of literally everyone in the world. And Starfire would not approve. I'm not going to be talking about this for any longer because, quite frankly, I don't want to talk about Amber any more than I have to. I am reblocking the synapses in my brain. This is a form of PTSD. It's an ability I've developed. I'm kind of like a superhero at the ability of blacking out traumatic events that happened to me, and Amber was definitely one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this video. I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the support that I'm getting on this series on every platform aside from Twitter. If you want more women, subscribe, leave a like. Bye.